All right, welcome back to Crit Couch. We are fighting more scorpions in Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I'm Michael.
I'm Skyler.
And he has a mint.
Nom, nom, nom.
Hey, where's my beer?
Hey, you're... What?
Oh, God, I'm poisoned.
How sucky is that?
Well, it's Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, so it's not.
I am definitely kind of taking in how easy this is.
Yeah, and, you know, I said it like an episode or two ago where it's like, I think the game gets a bad rap. I think...
Oh my God!
And
what have you done to this poor frog?
He's got a really, really swollen throat. I'm trying to ribbit, man. Can't fucking ribbit.
Everybody fucking loves ribbit.
Everybody fucking loves ribbit. So the game is far from hard, and there is like kind of a lot of repetition, I think, going through a lot of this stuff. And I think that's a fair criticism. I think the problem isn't the game itself. Like I said, again, I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago, the problem is the context of the release. Like, because again, the people that were going to play an RPG, they were looking for something more consistent with the RPGs they were familiar with. Because technically speaking, like even the NES, as far as America goes, didn't have like a ton of RPGs. Like, you had some weird. I mean, there's the big two. There's Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Warrior at the time, Dragon Quest, in the actual name of the series, and then Final Fantasy.
What is he? What is the guy on the right? I love him.
He's a turtle. I'm
I
a
don't
turtle.
like him as much.
I'm a
now.
land turtle.
I liked the little sprite. He looked super doofy.
He was like, everything's cool, guys. I'm just having a turtle good time.
The turtle good time.
It's turtly awesome.
Is that from something?
No.
But look, he is just this cute, he's like a Pokemon. Look at him. I'm just minding my own business.
I'm just turtling around.
And now he looks like a nightmare.
Oh God, now I'm turtling with a face full of fucking arrows. If it, like... Yeah, because I'm trying to think now. Go ahead and save. Because, like, there was Final Fantasy and...
I feel like I had a toy that made that same noise.
It's like one of those, like, laser guns from, like, the 80s
I
or
want
90s.
to point out that this dude seems super detailed in the horse parts and not super detailed in the person parts.
His face kind of goes away.
Yeah, it's like...
At least until... Oh, no! I dropped my bow! Where's my bow, guys? Oh, shit!
Don't shoot! Oh, she shot! This game. I'm about it.
I'm missing a lot. Yeah, like...
Yeah, what?
Because there was, let's see, there was a game called Faria, which was honestly more of an action RPG than an RPG. Like, you had random combat, but it was all like Zelda style. What was that?
I was just playing a little thing out in my head.
Okay.
With because the little turtle, whenever you're like walking up to them, they're really doofy looking. They're
Yeah.
Doot, 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 doot. And then as soon as they show up, they're like. So I was doing that while listening to.
Fair enough.
Anyways.
There was, well, like, see, Crystallis was more of an action RPG. There was Ghost Lion, which was kind of a weird, like, there were a lot of games that were Dragon Warrior ripoffs, but there were not a ton of strictly RPGs that we got. Now, there were a bunch in general in Japan, and I got a good, like, 40-50% of them had to just be Dragon Warrior clones. Like, there is one about... thick.
Does his little legs stick up?
Yeah. Like, there was one about Hercules. Well, it was Heracles. It went with, like, the Roman, but there was, like, the Glorious Heracles or something. There's a Doraemon RPG.
Can you revive him?
He comes back with 1 health. So, yeah, I can just be like, hey, I'm Phoebe. I have cure magic. And we're good.
Not really pushing its limits here.
No. But so, like, realistically, there weren't that many RPGs at this point, and even some of the early Super Nintendo RPGs were kind of bad. Tecmo Secret of the Stars kind of sticks out. It was not great. And Nintendo Way of the Ninja was also not great. Like, that was kind of pre-Square really taking over to the extent that it did, and Enix as well. Like, even some of Enix's earlier ones. You asked me, he saw a copy of the 7th Saga sitting on my shelf earlier and asked me about it, which is, I mean, it was fun at the time. Like, the kind of idea of the game was cool and the characters was cool, but the game itself, like, if you look at it through a retrospective lens, is really repetitive. And that's not accounting for the localization glitches.
It's really repetitive. Kills my 95th worm.
Yeah, right. Like, worm. At least there's, like, visual changes as you go through. 7th Saga is, like, the same graphics kind of across everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, this is... I guess that makes this kind of an interesting footnote in that respect, because if it had been released as kind of like... And it was billed and marketed as kind of a, hey, this is for people that aren't...
Like an intro series.
Yeah, like this is for people that, like, want to get into RPGs but are maybe daunted by the depth of stat systems or all this other stuff. Then sure, you know, come in and have kind of a...
Oh, somebody's boogieing over there.
Yep. He is having something.
A gas.
But that's really the game's biggest sin, is that it's not that, like, as a game it's terrible. I mean, it's easy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I've barely been paying attention to what I'm doing as I go through all of this. And
yeah, we definitely seem more coherent on this one, probably.
Oh, yeah, like, I'm not having to really stop and pay attention to mostly anything.
What are the green things?
Huh?
That monster.
Oh, it's another variation of the bird. The I've seen shit bird.
Yeah.
Sparna. Who are very weak against bows.
My only weakness, sharp, pointy objects. No, don't hit me anymore, fuck!
Yeah.
I just wanted some lunch, buddy.
But,
Fuck, that's my friend Ben. And that's me.
Well, there goes Ben.
I guess that's me.
But yes, like, its biggest sin is just not being what people expected or wanted. Because I think I said earlier, I am sure there's somebody that played this and was like, oh, you know, maybe Final Fantasy, like, isn't just, like, goofy, or I mean, this is goofy, but
Yeah.
isn't like some strange foreign object that doesn't make sense. Like, maybe this actually made it more digestible for people, and I think there's value to that. But in an era where you didn't have a lot of game releases, which we actually talk about, again, you won't hear this for several weeks, but if you go watch, like, Soul Blazer, like, when it eventually comes out, you'll hear some more discussion about that. But so
stay tuned.
Yeah, right. But, like, in an era of there not being as many things to play, when something with the naming profile of Mystic Quest, like a Final Fantasy, comes out, it feels like somebody pulled the carpet out from under you when it's not what you wanted. It's not what you thought Final Fantasy was. And that's a fair criticism.
Well, because I remember, so the first Final Fantasy I ever played was Final Fantasy VIII.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, one of the first consoles, because I got the N64, and I played a few games on that, but, like, I remember my dad bought the N64 because he wanted to play Turok. Which, gotta tell you guys, not a great game. He beat it, if I recall. But there were some other games and stuff, and I remember playing Ocarina of Time and a few other things. But I wasn't like what?
Continue.
Yeah, I wasn't like coherent enough, or that was adorable. We'll say I wasn't competent enough is probably the better term to really play certain, like, RPGs and things. But I started getting into it right at the end of the PS1 when the PS2 came out. And I remember buying a PS2 and wanting to buy PS1 games for it.
Yeah.
Or I got a PS2 and really wanted that. Because I remember like one of my first games was Dark Cloud, which was awesome. But before that, all I had was, I think, Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy VIII. Like, those were the only two games I owned. So I really enjoy Final Fantasy Tactics, and I know that's not necessarily a favorite, but
oh no, but it actually is. Like,
yeah. Oh really?
Oh, people love Final Fantasy Tactics, dude.
Chopped his fucking arms off, and he's like, "Oh, this might be going bad."
Oh god. So I mentioned it in the first one. This is actually it's weird from a balance perspective because it's almost like the game knows that its balance isn't great early on, and so it overcompensates by just not making it matter. Because, like, so your partners, they can't level up. Like, they are always...
Really?
Yeah. And so if this shit happens, then you just have to start back over and go. And it's interesting because full disclosure, like, I played back through this game before doing the recording just to kind of get a sense of how things worked and whatever, because it had been a while, and just to remember where some things were. And so, like, I re-noticed that principle in playing back through, is that, like, early on, they're super willing to like throw some stuff at you that just by chance will absolutely, like, mess with you. But then by the time you get to the end of the game, it's basically irrelevant because, like, your spells are so powerful and you've got so many... damn it. You've got so many things at your disposal that can handle enemies in such ridiculous ways that there's no challenge whatsoever. So, and it's not even, I would say, that this is challenging. It's mostly just 256 damage is most of my life, right? Yeah. Like, so from a balancing perspective, like an actual numerical balancing perspective.
That spell's called Thunder, but then you shoot lightning at him.
Yeah, well. From an actual balancing perspective, even if I level up a lot, like even if I had spent more time killing monsters, the actual, like, gap in my leveling to go from where my health is now to where 256 doesn't just, like, obliterate me is huge.
Yeah.
So you're
this is my night cap.
Sucker stick. So my night cap.
That's not what it kind of looks like.
So realistically,
set him on fucking fire.
One of two things happened. They either actually built this game to have this level of kind of like randomly large hit that gives you trouble, or they really didn't give enough of a shit to balance it because they figured it was just so easy with the retry options anyway. And I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to mention is, I definitely had a...
Oh, I just totally blew through that.
Wow, dude.
All she said was, hey, this is the Libra crest. Let's go use it at the temple. Anyway, you were saying?
I was just going to say, like, some of the first RPGs I got into were these, like, later Final Fantasies.
Yeah.
I could definitely say, I don't remember what all I was going to bring up, but one of the points I was going to make was, so you think if this were marketed like, hey, this is more of like an intro game, that it may have done better. But, like, I know I also just jumped right into a Final Fantasy and was like, this is it. This is what I want.
Yeah. Well,
because I almost bought, like, I think it was called, like, Final Fantasy Anthologies or something.
Yeah.
At the time. I don't know what games were on that, but I know I would have been very disappointed if it wasn't that same 3D Final Fantasy I saw that I really wanted to play.
Well, yeah, and so there were I know what you're talking about. There were two. There was Final Fantasy Chronicles and Final Fantasy Anthology. And Chronicles was Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger.
I almost bought Chronicles. Yeah.
And Anthology was 5 and 6.
Gotcha. So I almost bought that first one with Chrono Trigger. And as I remember looking on the back, and I'm like, these aren't the cool 3D people I saw. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is I said Final Fantasy VIII was my first one that I played, right?
Yeah.
Well, I actually wanted to play Final Fantasy VII. I bought the wrong one. I bought the wrong one anyways.
I don't know Roman numerals, right?
Yeah, but I was still happy with the turnout.
That's fair. Next time on Crit Couch, we're going to step on this little thing. And it's going to take us places.
Is it though?
It's going to take us to the Bone Dungeon.
The Bone Dungeon.